Nick and Alex. So please tell us a little bit about yourselves and what you do and what we're going to be doing today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Erica. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right there and introduce ourselves. So my name is Alex. We also have Nikolai in this virtual room, and we are the team behind Olay. And at Olay, our mission is really to deepen the way that people connect with themselves, with others, with their work, and with the broader community. So we hope today that you'll be able to reflect on some of the connections that come up, and you're able to explore that and deepen those connections for yourself. So we have a couple house asks before we get into the bulk of it. And the first is show up, not show off. So we're not here today to lead with our titles or accomplishments, but rather to show up as ourselves. So however you're feeling, this is the space for that. This is really, the next hour and a half is all about, your own self-reflection and exploration. So show up as you are and prioritize yourself. Second, we have heart first. So this is an ask for openness and possibility. Shake any sort of expectations and demands and really take a moment, like we said, to prioritize yourself. And there will be many opportunities to share. And so our last ask is sharing is our currency. So we believe that sharing is at the core of connection. It's what helps us to process on a different level. It helps us to connect with others. And there will be several opportunities. With our tool, social journaling, which was teased in the title, it's all about combining personal reflection through some journaling prompts that we will have, as well as the group conversation, in order to learn a little bit more about ourselves and deepen the connections that we have all throughout our life. So I will pass it off to Nikolai.
Hello, my name is Nikolai. So to kick us off, we're going to do just a breathing exercise to get present and center ourselves here. The day gets crazy and there's lots going on. And even I myself find myself thinking about things that need to still get done. So if you want to join me, you can keep your eyes open or closed. We're just going to repeat this process a couple times where we take a deep inhale. And then after the deep inhale, we'll just take another sip of air at the very top. And then we'll just exhale with a big sigh and release. And so we'll do that a couple times and I'll do it with you. You can do it at your own pace or follow along. So just have your feet planted wherever you're sitting. Imagine that your seat is on the chair or the bed or couch, wherever you are, and that it's connected to the earth and the core, and that we're all actually connected. Even though we're in different places, we're all connected by the elements in the earth and the core together. And from that place, we're gonna go ahead and take a deep breath. Take a sip at the top. Release. We're gonna do that a couple more times. We're gonna take a deep breath. Take a sip. And release. We're going to do another one. One more. And whenever you're ready, if you'd like to open up your eyes and come back and join me. Welcome. Thank you so much. Today, we're going to be talking about practicing greater care through self-empathy. So we'd love to hear from you in the chat. What comes to mind when you hear the word empathy? Or what does empathy mean for you? If you just want to throw it in the chat. For me, some of the first things that come to mind are feelings, compassion, caring. But we'd love to hear from you some of the words or some of the things that come to mind when you hear the word empathy. Understanding what others are feeling, compassion without sympathy. That's a good one, Annie. Caring for others, absolutely. All of these things are included in empathy. But today what we want to talk about and focus on is self, and effectively practicing empathy for ourselves and practicing empathy from the place of self. And so that's what we're going to be exploring today, is self-empathy. And before we even dive in further into self-empathy, the reason we talk about empathy or self-empathy, or even the work that we're doing of what Alex talked about, why we're here, is this framework for the me, we, us of connection. And really, this framework is for making sense of the world around us. And how do we connect with all the different parts of us and the parts of us that require us to show up in different ways? And how can we really bring ourselves to the table? And really, this framework for connection, talking about the me, we, us, brings greater alignment and connection with ourselves, with the world around us, the people that we interact with, and then the greater community or the greater whole. And so when we're talking about me, which is the core of the me, we, us framework of connection, this is exploring what is your connection with self. And this is the area of self-awareness, the self-discovery, the self-actualization, being able to stand in the statement of, I know myself and I am one with myself, that there's that unity and that alignment and understanding. Because we see that when there's a healthy me, you know, we have our own confidence, we have security. But we see when there's an unhealthy relationship with the me, we experience a lack of identity, insecurity. We're easily swayed, impacted, or influenced. And the goal here is, how do we get congruent with our oneness of who I am and who I want to be? And how do we make that one? The next part that we explore is the we. And this is really the direct relationships that we have. This is our family, our boss, our coworkers, our client. These are the people that we're interacting with one-on-one. And really, we talk about how do we have the most impact or control. And when we show up, that is one of the areas that we have the most influence and control, is showing up as our true self with the me, and then creating space for others to show up as their true selves. And then the us is exploring the relationship you have with the collective. And that is all about, what role do you play in this bigger story of NC CASA or in advocacy work? What role do you specifically impact? And then understanding and celebrating what impact does the whole organization actually have, because there's all of these people coming together and creating something that is larger than just themselves or the sum of their parts. And so that's really why we explore on the 3 different levels, because it requires a different level, a different part of ourselves to connect. We have to connect with ourselves first. Then we have to connect with the people around us that we interact with directly. And then we have to connect and align with this greater community and a greater collective.
So we always share that it starts with the self. It starts with this relationship that you have with yourself. So to kind of like go into that a little bit more, is that we all have connections within our lives. We all have relationships. We're part of communities. We work and we show up. And these connections are built over time. They don't happen overnight. And as we meet new people or deepen a relationship or experience new things, we create new and deeper connections. But at the very core of any connection that we make has to be the self. Because when you don't have a self, like in this picture here, we got rid of that purple circle that represents the self. There is nothing that anchors our participation, our contribution, or our relationships. And at a certain point, all of those different responsibilities or those commitments just float around because there's no anchor in that self. So we can feel misaligned, we can feel disconnected, we feel burnt out, we're tired, we're exhausted. And it's because we're in the state of reactivity. We're reacting. We're reacting to the things that we have to do, the people that are within our communities, what our demands at work. And so we're reacting, and we're in this constant state where we're trying to gather and make sense of all these moving parts and focusing on that rather than focusing on the most important thing, which is ourselves and where we stand. Because when we have that me, all of the things that are happening within our life, it's anchored in knowing ourselves and our wellness and what we have to offer and contribute to any sort of community. And the more that we're able to realize this and step in that space and live in that space, the deeper the connections we make, the more relationships that we build, the more, like the stronger that whole alignment becomes. And so it's really important that for anything that we want to practice, whether it's compassion, empathy, trust, responsibility, confidence, all of that has to begin with self. And so if you want a little bit more compassion in your life, you have to ask, where's the self-compassion? If you're kind of needing a little bit more trust, not only, with the relationships that you have, with the communities that you're part of, you can start looking and seeing, where do I practice self-trust? So today our focus is really on the empathy component, but really seeing like, where do we stand with the things that we want to practice and invite more of within our lives.
And so the work of Dan Goleman really researches his whole life is all about empathy and emotional intelligence. He's the father of emotional intelligence. And he really talks about empathy in 3 different buckets. And so the first one is, to dig a little bit deeper, is this cognitive empathy. It's this ability to understand, recognize, intellectualize what is going on with someone else. Oh, I can see where you're coming from. Logically, I'm relating with you. Great. The second one is affective empathy. That's that feeling kind of empathy. The one where you're like, ooh, wow, that hurts. Or I can really relate with that pain. Or thank you for sharing, like, wow, like that hits something with me in another, physically relating with them and emotionally. And the last one, though, is compassionate empathy. And this is the one that actually leads you to action. And action doesn't necessarily mean to fix or to solve the problems or what's at hand. The compassionate empathy is rather showing up and being present with others. And it leads us to just being there for others. And so how do we actually translate this work that has been done to self-empathy? And really, it's taking these 3 buckets and applying it to ourselves. So can I have cognitive empathy with myself? Can I understand where my body and feelings are coming from? Can I understand how I got to where I got? Is there some compassion and empathy there for myself? When we're talking about effective empathy and turning that towards ourselves, is, can I allow myself to feel whatever feelings are coming up? Ooh, that makes me feel frustrated, angry, sad, upset, whatever it is. Can I be okay with that? Can I feel for my own self? And then the last one, which is sometimes even harder to do, is that compassionate empathy. Is, can I take an action of kindness towards myself? Can I take a 5-minute break? Can I tell people like, hey, I'm out of the office for lunch, or I'm taking a 2-hour lunch. I need time for myself. Can we take a moment to identify what is it that I need and what action can I take? And it's easier sometimes for us to focus on other people than it is ourselves, because that will require us to eventually end up in a place of having to take action. And we see this when we're working with advocates or talking with advocates, is we want to have the most impact. We want to help as many clients as possible, because we're talking about real lives and real pain and real problems. But if we're not coming from a place of overflow, and we're not coming from a place of first taking care of ourselves, the impact will not be sustained. And so today we're going to be exploring 3 different ways to build empathy for ourselves. The first one is build and practice presence. The second one is know and fuel your power source and where your power is coming from. And the third one is setting and honoring those boundaries.
To start off with the first one, build and practice presence. So there was this study done, and they found that 40% of the time, our minds are wandering. And they concluded that a wandering mind is an unhappy mind. So even in the past half hour for this presentation, your mind has already wandered for about half the time. But that's okay. Because they say that the problem isn't really the wandering. The problem is where our minds wander to. Because the research found that when our minds wander, they don't usually wander to our happy places. It's quite the opposite. Our minds have a tendency to wander to negative places. Places of worry, of fear, of self-doubt, of irritation, of anger. And that never really goes away. It lingers. Because we always find that our minds kind of wander back to a problem or to a negative emotion if it currently exists. And so no matter how much we do to push it away or shove it under the rug, it just keeps showing up. And that's an indication that it's somewhat tied to us. And unless we figure that out, as Nikolai had shared, and kind of practice that empathy and that process of asking ourselves, like, what's going on, it's going to be hard to break it. And so to start out with, our mind wanders like about 47% of the time, but that's on a regular day. So when we're stressed out, when we're busy, when we're overloaded, as the past year has really put on our plates, our mind wanders even more. So if a stressed mind is a wandering mind, then the opposite is to be more mindful. So let's explore a little bit more of that. And there is this beautiful practice that was created by Tara Brach, meditation guru. And she has this practice, and it's all about getting in touch with that side, getting in touch with your wandering mind and where it wanders to. And so her practice of RAIN, broken down, is recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture. And what this is, and we'll go through each one of these, is recognition is really to just recognize what's happening. Asking yourself the question of what is happening inside of me. And so it's taking a moment for yourself to kind of, step away from whatever is going on and be still and notice what's going on. Notice where your mind's wandering to. Don't try to control it. Don't try to be like, oh, you should go here, but just be aware of where it's going. Which then takes you to allow. And this is really a continuation of a moment to pause. You've taken a moment to observe like what is happening. And now you can ask yourself the question of, can I allow whatever is happening to just be, to just exist? What's the worst that can happen? Where is this thing occupying within my body? Because a lot of times we also do feel things physically. When I'm stressed, I feel it in my shoulder and it creeps up my neck. When I experience another emotion, I can just feel it right in my gut. Like someone's like punching it right here. And so kind of recognize and allow it the space to kind of exist so that you can identify where it lives. Which takes it into the next part, which is investigate. Without judgment, but with curiosity, can you kind of ask it some questions? Be curious about it. Notice what are the thoughts that are allowing it to exist? Where is it present? And are there different types of emotions that also exist? And last is nurture. So that now that you've kind of identified the negative feelings and what kind of exists with that, can you call upon like your wisest and your kindest self and figure out, how can I support you? What is it that you need? Because usually things exist because they want to be seen and want to be heard. And so even if emotions are existing within us, it's asking to be heard in some level. And so we can talk all about this, but we always think that practicing it is a little bit better. So we're just going to take a moment to kind of walk through this cycle of RAIN. So if you're comfortable, you can keep your cameras on, you can turn them off, but we're just going to go ahead and take a moment to close our eyes. You can also keep them open, but to go through this process of RAIN. So as you settle into your place, take a couple deep breaths with your feet planted on the ground. Just breathe in this openness into your being. And if your mind is wandering it, allow it to wander. And figuring out, where is it going to? Now, I want you to think of a current situation or a reoccurring situation where you feel stuck, where you feel tired or burnt out, where you feel fear or shame or hopelessness. Take a couple deep breaths to enter into that moment and visualize the scene. With each breath, remembering the words that were spoken, sensing the feelings and emotions. And with each breath, Just breathe in more space for this to exist. Now we're going to step into a place of recognize. Ask yourself, what is happening inside of you right now? What emotions are present? What thoughts are present? As you're recognizing with each breath, just allow its space to explore and watch the story unfold. And whenever you're feeling stuck, remember to breathe as your breath helps you to stay present with your feelings. Now, can you ask yourself, can I let this be? Whatever it is that you're feeling, can it exist within your being? And you can whisper to yourself, yes, or let this be, whatever is helpful for you to step into that moment. But this is a place for you not to judge or to push away or to control, but to a place to just observe with curiosity. And with your next breath, I want you to offer a loving message to this part of you that may be feeling misaligned, disconnected, angry, frustrated, or burnt out. You have space here. We're okay. We can figure this out. Take a couple deep breaths for yourself. And whenever you're ready, we welcome you back. Welcome back. So we're going to go ahead and jump into our first journaling prompt. So whatever you just experienced right now, we want to give you a space to reflect, to put it on paper. So if you have your notebook, or if you're someone who likes to type, you can pull up a fresh document on your screen and just explore it. Where did your mind wander to? What came up for you? What were some thoughts and feelings? Happy writing. I'm going to ask you to wrap up your current thought, and we're going to go ahead and enter into breakout rooms for the opportunity to kind of now move from the personal reflection to a conversation about what came up. Again, share whatever you're comfortable with, even if it's just a word or you want to share something bigger that came up. So the rooms have been opened. And then Alexandra, I don't think I was able to, it didn't give me the option to add you into a room. I'm wondering if it's because you're the host.
That's what I'm thinking. I've never tried to join a breakout room while hosting, so I'm guessing maybe that's what happened.
Okay, got it.
I don't know what happened.
Oh, I'll go ahead and put you into another room. Okay. Sometimes it's glitchy. I noticed that it says they're in the room, but they're not actually there.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a setting when you go next to your name that allows you to break out or like to be a co-host versus host.
Yeah, I don't have that option. Like when I click the little drop down next to me, I don't have the option to not be a host anymore. It would just be like mute, stop video, rename.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
So like you can't pass off the host duties anymore.
Mm-mm.
Okay, well, we could have a mini experience here and just share kind of what came up. Because Nikolai and I, we always kind of participate too and journal for ourselves, which is fun.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just was thinking about, you know, we were talking about graduation and everything before this all started. And UNC just announced that class of 2021 will get an in-person ceremony, but class of 2020 will not. Even though they promised that to us when everything first started. So kind of just thinking about that and all of the angry class of 2020 people that there are now.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, it's definitely been an interesting process, all of this.
Yeah, it sounds very confusing and kind of like a change of reality happening, and you're not really able to participate in the changes as they happen.
Yeah, it's really just been interesting seeing the administration's like thinking process with it all. Like Dr. Fauci is going to be their speaker. So yeah, so like it's awesome for them, but it's definitely been putting a weird taste, I think, in people's mouths for who graduated and then got nothing really.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's really powerful to identify. Alex, do you want to share or do you want me to go first or second? Sorry.
Go.
I mean second or third. Okay. One of the things that came up for me that where my mind watered to, I'm doing this program, and during the program, this 9-month program, one of the lecturers is talking about this immunity to change, and we had to like pick a personal development goal. And one of those goals that I picked, or one of the goals was to be more like speak my mind more, because I love to go with the flow and I love to listen, but rarely will I contribute unless asked. And there's different reasons for why that was, but that's where my mind watered to, was like that goal, and how there's certain relationships in my life that there's disagreement, or we're not like on the same page. And my mind was wandering to like, ooh, like what are the feelings that are there? Like the fear, the stress, but really like exploring, like, can I sit with like the fear of disagreement, like the tension, the stress? I think that was really hard for me. to be like, okay, I allow it, because those aren't like necessarily positive emotions or feelings for me right now. And I'm like, I don't feel comfortable sitting with this. But, you know, where I ended on is like, I kind of need to sit with this and let it be, because the durability of the relationships that I have where I feel this, I do believe that they're strong enough for us to like have differing opinions. And if they're not, then like maybe it's not that important. But like trusting that those relationships and like the relationships that I have are strong enough to handle like sitting with this emotions and like sitting with like just a differing kind of opinion. And I was like surprised that like all this came up. I was like, oh, I thought I was just gonna be sitting here like, and I didn't think this would come to mind. So it was really fun to explore, but definitely uncomfortable. Yeah, it's like I need to lean more into the relationships that I have built and like the time and energy that's been invested.
We're complicated beings. Yeah, for me, it's just, I think I'm just impatient about everything lately. I just feel like this pressure to rush through things, and didn't necessarily get to explore like why or what it is that I'm rushing for. All that I know is that it's like, we're done being here. Let's go over there now. Why aren't we there now? Type of thing. Yeah. Oh. Okay. I see that I'm going to go ahead and close the room. Sorry for the abrupt transition. Welcome back. We'll just give a couple more seconds until everyone's back with us in this main room. But in the meantime, we would love to just open up the group and ask, was there anything that came up that you want to share with the larger group?
I will share. So in our group, a lot of worry, anxiety as bigger feelings came up. Some things that are kind of on all of our minds right now. Tracy talked about like she's watching a puppy and it's doing puppy things right now. So that's been kind of on her mind. For me, there's just so much already worry on top of my daily activities. And then I shared with the group that this morning at 5 a.m., I woke up and my cat was sparkling. So my cat is covered in glitter, and that has been giving me some worry. I'm wondering, is he going to be okay? Because I know he's going to lick it off, trying to clean himself. And that keeps coming to my mind, and it's stressful. And then I'm like, okay, I can feel it. I feel it in my body, in my neck. Charlotte talked about the anxiety that we're feeling. I'm like, yeah, so I feel like some of that pain is tied to the anxiety that I feel about all the things going on, including the glitter covered cat.
Thanks for sharing, Erica. Is there anyone else who would like to share?
I guess I can. Yeah, I just had a hard time getting my brain to focus, and I noticed that there were just kind of these recurring like shoulds, and oh, I should be doing this, and oh wait, oh no wait, I'm doing it wrong. Okay, oh no, I'm not being nurturing enough. All right, I gotta do that. And then like, you know, and I injured my hand a little while ago, so then I wasn't journaling. I was just kind of thinking about things instead of writing them down. And then, you know, my brain was just not doing not being very focused or disciplined, and it's just a lot of like, oh no wait, oh yeah, that's the thing, oh okay, well yeah, I need to remember to do this. And then kind of at the end, just starting to try to get there a little bit, and then yeah, and then I realized one of my last kind of thoughts before you brought people back was like, yeah, I really need this. I really need to be practicing this if this is my mind story and this is like what happens. I really need this on a regular basis. So that was my experience.
Thank you, Annie. Yeah, rain is tough. It's tough to sit in a place and even to recognize that, wow, I am not very focused at the moment, or this is what I need. It gets you to a place of recognizing where you're at right now. Because from so many conversations we've had, especially in work and around work, we're living in the past or we're living in the future, rather than asking like what it is that we need right now. So even the simple act of being like, this is how I would describe, I am unfocused, I am a whirlwind, and be like, what is it that I need? And just with those two acknowledgements, ease starts to come. And the more that we do it, then the more that we can recognize like, hey, maybe this isn't a good fit for me. If this is causing me to be in a constant state of like chaos and I'm lacking focus, maybe this isn't what I need right now. And how can I go about finding what it is that I need? Which is a wonderful segue. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again and hand the floor off to Nikolai.
Yeah, such a perfect segue of the second part of building empathy for ourselves is investing in our power source. And it's one of the things that kind of anchors us and helps us get back to kind of that stillness. And so we like to lead with this quote with, working hard for something we don't care about is called stress, chaos, fill in the blank. Working hard for something that we love is called passion. And, you know, 2020 has done a number on us, and everybody has been affected. There is not one person in the world that has not been affected, whether it's the global pandemic, it's the natural disasters all over the world, it's the racial injustice, it's political differences. Everyone on every level has been affected somehow. And so for us, while this craziness is going on the external, it's like, how do we connect and come back to our passion and ask ourselves, you know, how does this project or this work that I'm doing, or just the way that I'm showing up, even like today to this workshop or meeting with a friend, how's that connecting with my passion? How can I come back to that alignment and the core of the me, we, us? And this is really why we talk about the framework for connection at the beginning, is because it's an inside out approach rather than an outside in. It's about first getting still with ourselves, connecting with who are we? That question that I asked when we were talking about the we, about the me. And this is really asking ourselves, what is my passion? Especially for the work that you all are doing. You're not doing this work because you're going to get paid $1 million and you're just like, I'm so happy to be doing this. I'm getting a big paycheck. The motivation is different. Your passion is personal. Your passion is the driver that anchors you for the way that you show up for yourself, the way that you show up for the people that you work with directly, for the bigger collective, for the organizations that you are a part of, or the collective of NC CASA. And so the big question is, how do I drive more impact? Really, the answer to that is connecting with more of yourself and with your why, and being able to clearly identify, this is my why. This is why I show up the way that I do. This is the way that I show up for the work that I'm doing, because it's a personal passion of mine. And this is how it connects. It flows out of the inside out. It flows out of the inside and affects every area of your life. But it must be prioritized first, is our why and why we're doing this. And so that leads us to our second prompt that we're going to reflect on, is taking a moment to just think about and reflect what brought you to this work to begin with. This is one of my favorite questions that I love asking, no matter who we're working with in any organization, is what brought you to this work? What energizes you about it? What lifts you up? What lights you up? And so we're just going to take a couple minutes to just brainstorm and brain dump on our journal, different things that come up. Happy writing. you'd like to wrap up your last thoughts, we're going to go ahead and do another round of breakout rooms.
Yeah, I'd love to hear when we get back into the big group, like what aspect of helping people is most exciting? Whether it's connecting with like-hearted individuals where your mission is the same, or is it like helping people to see new possibilities, or being a part of like spaces and conversations where people like you can feel that people feel seen and heard. Because I think there are so many elements to it, and we're all here to help people, but it's like, how can we better identify how to partner with each other so that we can help the people that we want to help?
Do you have an answer, or is there something that like stands out to you?
Me or Alex?
I was thinking Alex, but you as well. I want to hear from both of you.
I mean, yeah, I could just share. So like I was a part of a project last year where we helped out survivors using CARES Act funds. And I think like for me, what energized me about like supporting people and helping people is just that knowing, well, first, like I have to acknowledge like my place of privilege to not have the same financial stressors as people who reached out, like not the necessarily same shared experiences and all of that. So at least like it was very meaningful for me to be able to use that position that I'm in currently to be able to help out other people. Because if I have the ability and energy to do that, then like I'm happy to kind of put that toward like trying to think of the right word. I can't think of the word, but to put it towards something that's going to be impactful and really meaningful for other people. And I think just being around other people that kind of view that in the same way. Like I know the nonprofit sector is very different than the more commercialized and business sectors. So I think it's just kind of refreshing to be around that energy where we're focused on helping people rather than, trying to meet like financial goals or all about numbers. And I feel like it's nice having that bit of emotion and humanity aspect added to it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing. For me, one of the things that I wrote down that is like sticking with me is my passion for bringing more of myself and my humanity and myself to my work. Yeah, like so much of my career, there's been like my personal self and then my work self. And I think Alex can attest to, when I write certain emails or like correspondence or do some work, it's like no emotion, to the facts, short and succinct. Let's get to the point. Let's do the work and then like be done. And it's for me, like what excites me, and Alex, like your question, like it's about infusing more and believing that more of myself is adding greater value. And how can I do that? Like bring that kind of like liberation to others while I'm also liberating myself. And I think like that's the part that I need to be reminded of like, why am I here? Because I'm here to liberate myself and liberate others at the same time. And so, yeah, it was a really nice reminder. I like why I'm doing this. Like, wait, why am I, like, I had to ask myself probably like 3 or 4 times, like, wait, why am I doing this? Or like, what is behind that why? What is the why behind the why? So it was fun to like journal on
that. So linked. I was just writing a bunch of like small things that get me excited. And I think one thing is just like when individuals can get into a space of like clearly stating what it is that they need and going after it. And the subtle difference of when someone shares what they actually need versus what they think that they need. And when they can do the former, I just find it so exciting. Yeah, and then just experiencing different, like maybe the same conversation in a different way because there's like new space within it, like new growth and change that's been within it. But it's definitely the subtle things. Like when you see a shift in someone's like confidence or a shift in the way that someone's showing up, I get super excited. Now, if we can just be like that all the time.
Yeah. Alexandria, what have you found as one of the things that like helps you get back to, or you, Alex, as well, like helps you get back to your why or like your personal power source? Like, is there anything, maybe an activity or an item or something that helps you get back to it?
Sorry, I'm eating a baby carrot at the same time.
Oh.
So something that one of my coworkers suggested is keeping like an email folder like for like affirmations, essentially. So like any sort of communication that we've had with a survivor, maybe like expressed how the work that we do like impacted them in a positive way, or like anything like that. I save emails then and kind of can go and look back to that if things start getting challenging or overwhelming, to kind of like remind me, reground myself in the work.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. Welcome back, everyone. We'll give a moment for the rest of our crew to join us in the main room, but welcome back. Welcome back. The rest, is there more coming? There they are. Welcome back, welcome back. We would love to hear from you. If there was a highlight or an aha moment or just something, whether you journaled or something that you heard that you would like to share with the group. The floor is open.
Okay, I'll go first. I was sharing with Annie what brought me to this work. I feel like that it was destiny because, and I have to say it up front that I don't do direct servicing. I do prevention work. So empowering others to gain knowledge and change behaviors and attitudes and belief about what it is to have a healthy relationship, that energizes me, that lifts me as I lift others by teaching them that their voice does matter, that their voice matter, and that they can set boundaries. And not only for the other person, but what's important is that in order to have a healthy relationship, you have to be a healthy individual yourself. It starts and it ends with you yourself. So giving out that knowledge to people and seeing a difference, I mean, that energizes me, that encourages me. I feel like I was born to do this, and that's what keeps me going. And as I was sharing with Annie, I know myself. So I know that direct services is not for me. And I feel like those that do direct services, they tend to burn out faster because they have to give so much of themselves. I know this about me. So that's a boundary that I set for myself. So in order to empower people, you have to be an empowered person also. Thanks.
Thank you so much for sharing. That's so powerful. I can hear your passion and you're just the alignment. It's just so encouraging. Anyone else would like to share before we move on to the last section of our presentation?
I just like to express, listening to that, even just reminding me as someone who's relatively new to this work and has really just done focus more in prevention as well. Just the idea that like I'm sharing information with people that like, you know, I wish I had had sooner, and like getting that information to them is so encouraging to me, because it's knowing that like they're moving on with like really important, you know, knowing something that is really important and growing from there. And I think that's always very validating and encouraging in this work. So.
Thank you, Charlotte. So on to our final topic of today is all around boundaries. So kind of just like echo what even Tracy shared, like you have to know yourself before you can go about doing other things and knowing others and all of that. But it's this quote that we want to share is empathy without boundaries is self-destruction. And this ties into what Nikolai had shared earlier about the different types of empathy and really knowing yourself and where your strengths lie. Because even considering those 3 types of empathy, I'm definitely more of a cognitive empath. And I know working with Nikolai, he's more of the emotional empath. Like he feels the emotions, he feels it all. And for me, I'm just like, okay, this is what they shared, like this. And so just recognizing the strengths, because I had been in spaces where I tried to wear that hat and that strength of like emotional empathy. And I was like, ooh, this does not look good on me because this wasn't me. And so in so much of our work, we think that we have to be a certain way, that we should do this, we should do that, and we need to just show up in a certain way. But that is part of what leads to the self-destruction. Because when we don't know ourselves, we can't honor ourselves and honor our strengths and then lead from that place. And so one of the biggest things about boundaries is that a lot of people are like, oh, if I say that I can't do this, then, ooh, that makes me uncomfortable. But what we have to realize is that when we say yes to others, we are saying no to ourselves sometimes. When someone asks us, can you do X, Y, and Z? And in our minds, we're like, oh gosh, I don't really have the time. I'm exhausted, I'm stressed, but we say yes to them. Then we're saying no to our own self-well-being, our own emotional health, our rest, our sleep, our peace. And so kind of to think about this is that when we say yes to certain opportunities, is that saying no to ourselves? Meaning, is that not honoring who I am? That's not honoring my strengths. That's also not honoring the way that I want to engage and contribute in this space. And so for our last and final prompt, we just want each of you to explore boundaries. How do you set and practice boundaries? And where are some of your boundaries healthy? Where are they unhealthy? And really just asking yourself is sometimes when you commit to things, do you feel completely exhausted and depleted afterwards? And kind of exploring why. And if that's the case, can you start to set like more defined boundaries for yourself as a way of saying yes to yourself? So we're gonna go ahead and set a couple minutes for you to journal. Happy writing. welcoming everyone back. I'm going to go ahead and open the breakout rooms. Like, Nikolai, you're furiously writing boundaries for yourself.
I guess I'll go first. He called me out. Well, the one that I was writing about just now is a boundary about time. I often fall into this idea that things need to be like done quickly or need to be responded to quickly, or like if someone sets up a meeting, I should do it within the next week or two. And that's one of the boundaries I think that I can develop, and a muscle that I can work out, is things are not an emergency, and we don't work in an industry where things are an emergency or happen quickly. They only happen as quickly as we really allow them. And so I believe that there's room for growth in my response rate and my lead time, where when I'm responding, how much lead time I create for people, and just trusting that, trusting that the value is not tied to time. I think there needs to be like a decoupling of like time and how quickly, and like the value that I provide and that we provide as a team. Because that will, by default, if I focus on that, by default, there will be more time created in my schedule for things. And so I think that's what I want to focus on.
How did you know that you had to set a boundary there? Were you like feeling exhausted? Like, what was your sign, or that wandering like negative thought?
When someone gets back to me and they're like, oh yeah, let's meet, I'm usually like, oh great. And I look at my calendar and I'm like, okay, well, Thursday's my next one, or next Tuesday. And then as I'm looking at my calendar, I'm like, oh my God, but it's already so full. But I feel like I have to like do it within a week. You know, I feel like that like pressure, and then I feel depleted even before the meeting starts, because I'm like, oh, that Tuesday's already like a lost day. I'm not gonna have time to do actual like client work or work on myself or deliver like other things, because they're all meetings. And I'm like, oh, that I can decouple the time. We can meet in a month. Like, the value is still the value being provided. And I think that's so challenging for me, because I'm just like, okay, we gotta go, we gotta do things. And I'm like,
How about you, Alexandra?
Yeah, so since I did start this in a virtual context, I've been trying to be very aware of trying to keep work and my home life like separate, which is kind of challenging working from home. So like I try to set the boundary for myself that I'm only going to work 9 to 5, and like sticking very, very much within those time boundaries, because like, I know I have a tendency to just kind of feel like, oh, I got a new work email, like let me go like see what it is really quickly, just to like have an idea of what I'm going to be tackling the next day, which is like not great. And, like, also trying to like get comfortable with like saying no if I have too much on my plate. It's very hard to do that though, because I like just kind of adding on everything, because I love saying yes, I'm helping everybody, but then I don't actually get any of the work that I need to get done. And then I think like the last biggest boundary for myself is really trying to recognize and respect like my own triggers potentially, and like recognizing like when, even if I might really want to help and I might really want to help out the person or support however I can, recognizing that that's not going to necessarily be great for my mental health capacity, which also would then impact the rest of my work. So trying to recognize like when it's okay to step back and say no. And also just trying to incorporate more breaks throughout the day. Like I'm finding myself just having like consistently like work lunches, and trying to just make myself be like, you know what, no, like I can step away from the computer, I can eat lunch, and like everything will be fine.
Yeah, who created work lunches to begin with? Because, gosh, let me eat in peace. So we have all these like health problems and indigestion, and it's like it all stems back to work, like work lunches. Boundaries for me, I think it's more acknowledging like where I'm at in a moment and being able to be like this, I'm not going to show up as my best. And I think it's creating partnerships and relationships where I can do so. Yesterday, I was just like in a mood. The fire alarm went off in the middle of the night and did not shut up for a long time. And so just during the day, we had a meeting and I just like emailed out and I was like, hey, I'm in a mood today. Like, I'm not going to show up as my best self. Can we reschedule? And granting myself like permission to do that and that it's okay. Yeah. So just practicing and seeing where the actual boundary can be.
I love that. It's almost like when you're a kid and you're trying something new, or you're like walking, you're like, oh, can I walk this way? Oh, can I do this? It's like just like exercising a new muscle in a way, and like seeing like the range of motion of what's possible. I love that. So fun.
Welcome back, everyone. We're going to open up the space again. If there was anything that came up that you would like to share with the group, the floor is yours.
Well, I don't want to hog the floor. But what came up to me is that I think I'm very good at setting boundaries at work, at home, with friends. But the place where I need to build it more is with my son. And maybe that's because he's the closest thing that's near and dear to my heart. And I think he gets over on his mother too much. Oh, going back to the first
he got
exercise.
You puppy sitting, for crying out loud.
Right. When he has 2 dogs, I said you can't have any more, and now we got a puppy. Right. And he's in Ohio for the week. So I'm enjoying this workshop. I think it is excellent. And I think it's well put together, and I do appreciate this space. So I can vent about these dogs.
I totally echo what Tracy said. Like, this is a really, really helpful thing. And I don't know why, but I especially feel like I needed it today. So thank you. And yeah, Eric and I were talking about something that feels like it's kind of shown up a little bit more in my life lately, is like there are times where it can seem like, okay, it's going to be really important for me to be on top of self-care. And then, she was saying kind of having a little bit of a harder time with boundaries, not doing direct services and things. And I think it can totally feel like a less critical thing sometimes, and can therefore be a lot easier to like push off and push to the back burner. And it was just like, oh, you're speaking directly to me. Like, I just totally felt that. And really recognizing that as much as I think that I'm pretty good about boundaries in a lot of aspects of my life, there are definitely some that I still am trying to navigate, and figuring out how to hold boundaries with people that I've known for a really long time who have much different expectations of me. And like, even when I try to have these boundaries, they're just like, no, we're just blowing right past that. That's not we know each other better than that kind of thing. And I'm like, no, but for real, I need it. And just, it can be really hard.
Thank you for sharing. And so for our closing activity, this is actually my favorite part of the whole presentation that we do, is we call it the 30-second challenge. So we're gonna challenge you to get up or look around your desk, around what's in front of you, and find some object in your house, whether it's your kitchen, your closet, your living room, anything. Find an object that represents your self-empathy. So we're gonna put 30 seconds on the clock. I'm gonna get up myself and I'm gonna go find an object. See you in a little bit.
Okay.
So if you're back, if you could just raise your object, just so we know that you're ready. Everyone has an object. Everyone found something. Awesome, okay. Alex, can you take a screenshot with everyone raising it? I don't have that capability. Awesome, okay, thank you. So now we're gonna go around in a circle and share like why this object and how this object is gonna represent self-empathy. And so I'll just share really quickly. I picked this sage up. It actually just sits there more than I actually burn it, which makes no sense. So every time, but it's by my kitchen. So now every time I look at it, I'm gonna just think, wow, I can really practice a little bit of self-empathy and just burn it for a little bit. It doesn't have to be a whole experience. I don't have to walk around the whole house, which is what I normally do, which is why I don't burn it, because I feel like I have to get every room and do this whole thing. And I don't. I can just burn a little and enjoy the smell and the clearing. So that's mine, and that's how this object represents my self-empathy. So I will call on Tracy, and then after you're done sharing, if you want to call on someone else, we'll do popcorn style.
You're muted, Trace.
Sorry. I don't know if you all can see this, but it says, I am enough, I'm bold enough, I'm smart enough, I'm successful enough, I'm beautiful enough. So this represents and reminds me daily, and I have it hanging right above my bed. So, and I'm gonna call on Annie.
Mine is my water bottle, which I take everywhere with me. And it's a good reminder that like, when it's empty, I don't get anything out of it. I need to keep refilling and taking care of myself so that I can have something to give other people.
Very good.
And I'll call on Alex.
So my sister just gifted it to me, but it's a candle and it says, take me to a national park. It's a winter woods candle. And I've just been reading Take Me to a National Park lately. And it's just my reminder that I need to get out of here. And sometimes I just need to walk away from people or walk away from events or just like walk away and find my own equivalent of like the serene woods. And I'd love to hear from Alexandra.
So this is my plant, and it's one of the first plants that I got. Erica knows that I have a bunch, but I chose this one because it's one of the first ones, and it kind of reminds me that if I'm putting all of this time and giving it water and sunlight and everything it needs, I should probably do the same for myself, because I think I have a tendency of taking better care of my plants than I do myself. And I would like to call on Erica.
You guys, your stuff is, you know, it's all very healthy coping mechanisms. This is my little crystal cupcake, and it's my thing that reminds me to treat myself. So whether it's a real cupcake, treat yourself. Whether it's something pretty, treat yourself. But this is always my happy little reminder that I need to smile and treat myself more. Cupcakes. Oh, Charlotte?
Yeah. So unfortunately, I can't see all of your lovely items. I'm imagining them. I'm calling in, so y'all can't see mine either, but it is also a candle. I love lighting candles. I think it's super grounding. This one's my favorite. It's like a berry, scent. And I think it's something that, like, I light when I do need that, like, calm space for myself. And so it's a reminder, again, similar to your all, to take care of myself and have those moments where I can smell some berries and breathe a little bit easier. So, and I can't see who hasn't gone, if there's anybody. So
Camilla's doing double duty, so we'll have to skip Camilla.
I don't know if the 910 wanted to go.
That's Camilla's call-in number.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. Well, that concludes our presentation. I know Erica wanted to say some words to close, but thank you all so much for being here. Whether there's one person on our presentation or 300 like we've had in the past, it is just so meaningful for Alex and myself. And I want to thank your community. I want to thank Erica for having us, and just with so much gratitude, because we both get so much out of doing these presentations, because we are actually doing it with you as well and going through the steps. And so I just learned so much about myself and things that were coming up for me. And I just want to extend that gratitude and thank you for helping me learn about myself. Alex, did you want to say anything before we close? Okay, Erica, off to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys for this. Alexandra, is there some housekeeping things you want to say before we close out? Okay.
Yep, so I dropped in the chat the link to our post-training evaluation form. I just realized I typed out application form. Sorry, everybody, I've been focused a lot on other things. It's our evaluation form. And if you would fill this out for us, we would really appreciate it. We do read all of the evaluations that we get, and we take that into consideration when we're making all of our trainings. And also this is required in order to receive your training certificate. But if I remember right, we are waiting out till the end of the series to send out certificates, because our hope is that you'll attend all of them, because they all build up on each other. And I know they're all really great webinars, so you should definitely attend all of them in the future.
Right. Thank you, Alexandra. And thank you guys. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Alex and Nick. I am forever grateful. This was really good. Hi! Hi, Annie's coworker. We can't hear you. Unmute.
Oh, sorry, I missed y'all today. I've been busy.
Oh, it's okay. You'll catch us next time. And this has been recorded, so we'll be able to see it later.
Good. Thank you.
All right. Bye, guys. Alex and Nick, I'll be in touch.